Hello, my internet friends. Welcome back once again to another exciting episode for our bot building journey. So, this is episode 2, and in this episode, we are going to create our bot, travel bot, of course, using SAP Conversational AI. That's a pretty good thing that we are going to make this time. And if I've been following through the discussion, I believe in episode 1, you successfully able to create a Node.js application. So, this application, what we are going to do this time, will be deploying this application to cloud so that I know my travel bot, which will be building up using conversational AI, we can make an integration, and with this integration, of course, we can test the travel details. We can fetch all the way from our rep service using the travel bot only. Okay, so that pretty much the things that we're going to do. What else? I'm planning to do some little of conversations, not just entering some value and get entered, but make some conversation with the chatbot. Let's see how it uh, uh, gives a response back to the user, and let user again communicate with different actions. Also, we'll be touch upon something about the debugging, because and this time will be debug the Node.js application that will be deploying to cloud, because the Node.js currently built up in our last episode residing in our local computer. So we need to deploy this application into cloud, and of course that time we have to do a remote debugging, as you can very well anticipate, because that no more in my VS Code that application is running in my local hosted port, that rather it is running on cloud. So how to do that debugging remotely, we'll learn that. A lot of pretty good things probably you will get to know out of this episode, so stick around till the end. And if you have an appetite to learn this kind of latest technologies, don't forget to subscribe my channel and set the bell icon, so whenever I release the new content, you should not miss it out. Anyway, a lot of talk. Let's get into the actual discussion then. So now this is the application. Currently you can see in the cloud, and this is our Node.js application. We deployed into cloud, and it is currently in started status. So if I click on this application, it will open that dummy simple HTML page, what we saw last time in our from a local environment while we executed in local host and port 3000. Now it is actually running on cloud. That's cool. So let's click on 200 and fetch details. Voila, it's fetch now from the cloud also the required information that we planned for. Now quickly head over to our chatbot then, because this application, I already have integrated this application in the chatbot. So let's quickly check how this chatbot looks like and how it works actually. So now this is our chatbot, and if we just try something like fetch travel details for 100 this time, or maybe 200, whatever. So it is asking me something like, do you want to track the travel details 200? Pretty cool. I said yes. And I'm expecting now my chatbot also fetch the same details. Voila, it's actually really coming. Also, let's say if I just like only just set 40, I'm not entering anything because I know this bot is now only capable of fetching any travel ID related information. And this time I'll click on no, so it will just check and say, yeah, no problem, it just let me know anytime you want to track your travel details. And this time I'll just fetch track my travels. I'm not entering anything, just saying track my travels. So what will happen is in the memory, this last entered travel ID been actually stored, and this time it will fetch details only for that ID. Yeah, you see now it's checking whether I'm interested to fetch what the travel ID 40, because it stored that value inside your memory. And if I click on yes, of course, this time it will fetch for the travel ID 40 only. Pretty cool, right? So this is our old code, or maybe the files that we created in our last episode. And what I'm planning this time is to deploy this code to cloud. So for that, we need a deployment descriptor. So we are going to create a file called Manifest.yml as a part of our folder structure. And if I just head over to that file, so this is the content you can see over here. I have just given a name of my application while it will be deployed to cloud. The name is TravelBot, let's say. Just for the time being, ignore this particular command if you are not very sure. And some sort of random route I'm just telling, random route is equal to true, so that the cloud would automatically find out its it will generate its application URL the way you have just seen a few minutes back. And I'm just allocating a memory to a runtime memory, let's say 256 MB. That pretty much my deployment descriptor contains. By the way, what I'm gonna do is I just let's check how to get into the cloud from my VS Code Studio. So you just need to do kind of a CF login, and click on enter. It will ask for the API endpoints. In previous tutorial, I told like how to see the API endpoints. Probably you can just head over to that quickly. Go to my trial. Yeah, you can see this is the API endpoint. So I just already did this API endpoint before. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just writing CF login, and it will basically check this by default API endpoint. It's now set, and it will ask for the email. You have to enter the email and the password. I am already logged in, so I'm not logging in again. That pretty much you have the process to log into cloud from your VS Code Studio. Okay, so next what I'm gonna do, I just need to check out the different applications there. For example, CF apps. So it will just find whatever the applications I already deployed. Probably you see this is the travel bot is already existing inside this Cloud Foundry. So let's delete this app and we'll redeploy once more. So CF delete, and I have to give the bot name or maybe the application name travel bot. Enter. It will asking really delete this application. I click on yes, and it should delete now this application, and it's done. So if I just head over to our our applications in cloud, I'm not gonna see this travel bot anymore. You see it's removed. Okay, so now to deploy, you have to just do now CF push. Make sure like the Manifest.yml, the file is under the same my travel bot folder, and I'm also in this folder path. So from here I just put CF push, and it will just create this application with this travel bot as a name, and it will auto generate the URL this time. I'm just pausing this video because it may take a little while to complete this task. So it looks like this application got deployed, and if I just take a little up, you see this travel bot got created, and the requested status, it shows a started, and you see now the travel bot got a new URL like surprised some information. So it's auto generated by the Cloud Foundry because I have told that random route is true. Cool. So now let's quickly check our application. Voila, you see now this, it's in started condition. If I just run this application with this application route, yeah, the same thing appeared, right? We just deployed our application successfully to our cloud SAP Cloud Platform. Pretty cool. So what next now? Our Node.js basically now deployed to cloud already. So this is now existing inside our Cloud Foundry. So let's quickly create our travel bot. So while I'll be creating a travel bot, what I'm planning is to take some forking some sort of information, and I'll be using an SAP Ticket tutorial, so that you can also follow the same tutorial and create this simple bot as kind of a conceptual building and understanding how different components you need to attach and how you need to create an expressions, intent, etc. So let's first see that resource where from you need to mimic your bot. So this is our developers.sap.com. You'll find this create a chatbot that lets customer track packages. So we'll do tracking our travel ID. That's pretty much simple, because this tutorial gives a very good baseline for our POC. And let's learn these steps from here and build at our pods. And at the meantime, we'll just forking different resources or information that we need for our travel pod. Let's so as a prerequisite, you need to have your CI login. You have to register separately with the CI. So for that, you just need to go to that ci.tools.sap. SAP login, you can just search anywhere like SAP CI login, and you just head over to this and it will take you to automatically the login page, as I have already logged in. So it's coming to my login page directly. Otherwise, you need to register it, and that's it. Simple. Now let's quickly check out what this tutorial talks about. Yeah, it's a step-by-step guide, as all we expect. Now the developers.com is pretty cool, and a lot of knowledge we can gather out of this resource. Okay, let's quickly then start creating a new bot. So to create a bot, you need to just click on the new bot button, and I'm just selecting as a as an action, perform actions. And I need certain greetings as a default, or maybe predefined skills, and you have to give a bot name. So I already have a bot called travel bot. Let's give it a name called my travel bot. Yeah, just something very close. And description is optional. You can give data policy, I'm calling it the non-personal, and store the conversation, because it stores all kind of in a different user enter the different query or information over the chatbot, and it will store it for the analysis part. Yeah, this has a lot of different dimension of explorations about, because a lot of information will be quite confidential by the user, and keeping those information stored need to be kind of a data compromise kind of things can come up. So I need to explore a lot on that. Maybe in future videos I'll try to create certain contents about those security kind of related about the information. Let's see if I can able to share something on that. I'm calling it the non-vulnerable. Of course, it's a public, and just click on this create a bot. That's it. Simple. So let's quickly check what the different tabs and options offered by the console. You can see the different 4 tabs over here: train, build, connect, and monitor. Under the train tab, you see something called intents and entities. So let's head over to intents. Pretty much 2 intents we can see. One is a goodbye and greetings. We'll discuss what this intents means, and how these entities are related or required. I mean, why do we need an entity? So those kind of things definitely will come across. We'll discuss. So now by default, this goodbye and greetings comes because we selected greetings as our default skill while we created the skeleton of our bot. Let's head over to entities. Looks like your bot has no custom entities yet. So means you can see like 2 type of entities we can create probably. One is a custom entity, and another is a default or bold entities that offered by SAP. This framework offers. So now thing is like let's quickly check that out, like what these intents entities are all related, and expressions, right? So let's quickly check that. Whiteboard, go to whiteboard. So let's say this is my expressions. So what is that expression means? Anything I'm talking to my bot, right? So I'm asking like, hey, give me the travel details for travel ID 100. So that enter statement I'm making, it's kind of an expression. I'm expressing my query with my bot, right? Or my requirement with my bot. So this is my expression. Now different expressions can lead to a different intents. So this intent Let me tell you, like, this could be an intent, um, where I'll just say something like intent. So means looking at this expression, a chatbot will try to segregate that expression in different intents, like what exactly the intents for. So let's say I'm calling this intents as a track travel ID. Let's say, for example, that's my intent track. Sorry, it becomes rack. Okay, track travel ID. Okay, so let's say that is my intent. Okay, so once I'm saying like, hey, find travel ID details for 100, for example, travel ID travel details for travel ID 100. So looking at expressions, my chatbot, which is actually uh, had a machine learning capabilities enabled, it automatically try to understand like what this expressions means, and where it should heading towards. It should find some travel details. So that way it will identify the intent that I'm looking at. If I just ask book a hotel for me, definitely it will not search for that intent, rather it will heading toward a different intent to look at. Got it, I believe. Now there is something called entities. Okay, so what this entities means. So let's quickly write entities. And entities means something like, this expressions contain some informational, let's say, for example, travel ID 100. So this travel ID 100 I'm interested to search for, right? Because this information I need to get my actual details. So out of these expressions, that framework machine learning enabled bot will first identify the intent, as I said, and then I have to create certain entities. I'm calling it maybe a custom entity, and because by default 100 comes under a gold entity called number. Okay, certain gold entities are there, like color, like say location, maybe dates, maybe numbers. So those informations automatically falls back into that category. Okay, until and unless we train our bot and say like, hey, this is no more a number for you, but this is my travel ID. So I have to create a custom entity, and I have to map this entity with my expressions somewhere in the value, so that and of course you have to keep training my bot so that it recognize this number comes under this expression should be a travel ID, but not a simple other number. So that pretty much the concept that works behind the scene. Let's quickly check. So I have not created any entities yet, custom entity, and I can see only the gold entities. Cool. Let's head over to the build tab. You can see some in the left panel, something called add skills. So that means I can create multiple skills for a bot for doing different tasks. And definitely I'll create a skill over here to make it work for my requirement. Connect. This is pretty much interesting because you have an option to connect with different other third-party system or applications. For example, Slack, Skype, Cortana, Microsoft Cortana, Teams, Amazon Alexa. So many things we can do. We'll definitely explore something in future tutorial. I think already I created a video about Amazon Alexa integrations. You can just take a look if you are interested. In my channel, of course, you'll find that video. Okay, so the last tab is monitor. Yeah, this monitor is talks about all sort of loggings, because whatever the users will enter, it will keep logging, because you have selected as a recommended option like store that information. Okay, so that here this monitor tabs comes into. There is something called train. We'll see how to use that, and there is something called fork. We'll be using this fork a couple of times in our application development. Let's say that to train. Okay, so entities we can create. We can write any entities like track, travel. So let's see. This is my my entity. I can click on create, and it will the entities will be intents will be created. My bad, intents will be created because I'm on intent section. So what I'm planning, I'm not gonna create any intents, rather I want to fork some intents which I already created. Okay, and the similar way entities also. So let's head over to our bot that we already are working, and here is my travel bot. any kind of an open public bot, you can use the features. So I'll just go to this. See, you can something called track travel ID. So that is my intent created. So if I just get into this intent, you see it has lots of expressions that I have made. More expressions will make my bot more smarter, simple. So that's why I call it needs a lot of valid data. With a different way, it try to find that can you get 100. So it understand like, yeah, I'm just asking for my details about travel ID 100. Okay, that way it will start working. Okay, and for every intent, let's say this is my intents. If I just head over to it, you see something called travel ID I have linked. So this travel ID is our custom travel ID, travel entity rather, that we have to map it through. So whenever I click on 99, it automatically understand, hey, 99 means travel ID only. So I have to manually map it and create a data set. And then I have to click on this train so that my bot, under the hood, it keeps on understanding what these expressions are and it gets trained automatically. I don't need to click manually this train each time. It's an automatic process. Every time I change my expressions, my bot started getting trained automatically. But sometimes I can make a forced training also, okay, if required. Okay, so I have created my intents track travel ID. So let's do a forking and click on fork. So this, where should we fork this intent track travel ID? So it gives me an option at the list of bots where I am interested to fork this intent. So let's say I have just created my travel bot. So select this one and select your intent. Do you want to merge it with an existing intent? I don't want to merge anything. I just want to fork this intent pretty much. So just click on fork and just wait for a message. Let's quickly head over to our travel bot and see what's there. Voila. You see this track travel ID, it's automatically forked into my new bot. And if I just quickly get into that, I see all my questions automatically copied. And if just click any of the numbers, let's say over here, you see automatically the mapping been done because I already put effort there. So I don't need to, redo everything, but I just use that forking concepts. Amazing, right? So that you can definitely use it. Okay, let's head over to our application things. I mean the resources things where from we started making our application. So we basically created this skeleton successfully, and we just added the intent. Means we just completed this intent part. We have automatically mapped something travel ID. So that means we just go head over to our application and let's go to intents. So just a second. So intents automatically bought because the intents automatically created as we did our forking for the entities. Intents, because intents does have a dependency on the entities, and that's why this entity get auto forked into my travel bot. And all the list of values that these entities will automatically search around out of the expression, I've just given any random number so that it understand, okay, if I get a number like this in an expression, I'll just always think it's a travel ID for me. Okay, so that's kind of a training data set I have given as for my entity. It's a free entity. If I click on create, I have different options like restricted, free, and rejects entity. This is the latest addition. I have selected basically free entities in my previous bot, and that entity we created. We can create restricted entities also, where my informations will be quite specific that we are intent for. It is not a kind of a dynamic one. Okay, canceling this out. I believe this forking part clear. So I have done a forking from this existing bot, and it does have a dependency on the entities. So that's why entities, custom entities are auto forked, and all sort of mappings been done automatically. I didn't sorry, this automatically done all sort of mapping and everything. I didn't do anything because I did a forking concepts to reduce my work. Okay, very simple. Now let's head over to our documentation. So we have basically done our entity part completed. As they also did a free entity, we also did similar way, and that's it. I think we have done all the data point done. Now we added something yes and no kind of an option we have seen. So let's copy that add intents part from this adoption UPS bot, that is also public bot. So this is the bot over here. So let's quickly go into this intents for this another application which SAP recommends in their tutorial. So let's go to the ES part and fork it. Very simple. And of course I want in my travel bot and fork. Forbidden. Why? I believe that is already there in my travel bot. Let's quickly go to intents. Okay, I'm just going to intents once more. Yeah, it doesn't have because I already forked from this application. What we can do is we can go our travel bot then, and you will see this yes and no already I forked. So let's go to this yes and click on fork, and now my travel bot. Cool. So now I have already forked from this earlier SAP demo application, so it is not allowing me anymore. But now I just did a forking from my existing travel bot applications, and it did well, I guess. So let's quickly check my intents whether this ES is available. Voila, ES is now available, and all sort of expressions, all things are auto copied, and I didn't need to do anything much. Cool. Similar way, let's fork the no functionalities also. Let's head over to our travel bot, and this time I'll just click on no, and I'll just make a fork. I'll select my bot, which is a new bot I'm going to create, my travel, and click on fork. Let's head over to our my travel bot. I assume now this no will be also available. Yes, of course it is. That's cool. So what now we can do is let's test it, because we have added our entities and our intents. We don't have any skill, but we need to understand whether if I just make a query or put an expression, my bot is able to identify what kind of intents that I am planning to trigger or planning to find. So there is a flap called test. I'm just entering a value called 100. Let's see. Voila. Automatically it finds this track travel ID, which I forked from my existing bot. It's able to find this one, and it's also able to identify this 100 is nothing but my travel ID. Pretty cool. Let's say put another one like get travel details for 200. How it works, let's see. Voila, simple way, it finds the intent again, and it automatically set the travel ID. So my in expressions, out of expressions, my bot is able to find the entities. That is one important thing, and it also knows which intent to trigger. So let's move forward now with the build tab, and let's create a new skill. So now we are on the build tab of our travel bot, which is already an existing application. Let's understand like what this build skill what this skill does basically. Once you head over to this skill tab, let's quickly go back one step one. So we have to click on add skill, and you can put any skill name that you are interested to, and that pretty much you need to, and give a name. It's an optional, you just give a short title and click on add. That's it. So that way I created this track travel in my existing application. So let's quickly check what this track travel contains, and then we'll fork this skill to our new bot. So once you get into that, it does have 4 tabs: readme, then triggers, then requirements and actions. Readme, of course, what this skills talks about, kind of a documentation. Let's go to a trigger tab. We already created an intent. You probably can remember that is a track travel ID. So I'm just saying, like, if my track travel ID is present, I mean, if my application is able to find an intent properly, then probably I'll just trigger my skill. Very simple. Okay, and that is my trigger part. Nothing else inside. Go to requirements. In this requirement parts, a little bit of patience and focus will be needed. So I just added a travel ID. You can see the different entities you will find over here. Certain gold entities you can see. Certain you can see certain intents also, but I am not looking at intents over here because in the requirements I'm saying, like, the travel ID, I'm just telling my travel ID, which is my entity, I'm just representing it as a capital travel ID. Why? Given the representation of my internal entities as my travel ID as an external entity or external attribute. And I'm also telling something like yes is equal to yes and no is equal to no. So that kind of things I'm just representing. And let's quickly head over to this one. If you just pull down, you will have something called new replies, and it has 2 things, like if travel ID is complete, then I have to do some process over here. So I'm just saying, like, if the travel ID is complete, means travel ID is available, I'm just calling my this memory. It's an internal kind of a storage which will stores all the different entity values as a framework managed. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just referring that memory.travel_id.raw, and this information I'm passing it to my travel ID, because if I just head over to my application resources, you can pretty much find the same thing. Creating skill for tracking parcel. They have created a track parcel, and if the track parcel is present in the trigger section, you can see, then add requirements to skill. So in the requirement section, they are searching for the parcel number. Similar way, I'm searching for my tracking ID. So let's quickly close this out. I'm just searching for this, in the requirements, I'm just telling it's travel ID as my travel ID. And now what are they doing? They are just checking, like, if the parcel number is complete or parcel number is missing. So if the parcel number is missing, so what I'm gonna do, I just need to add, like, could you please provide the travel ID? Means for my case, it's a travel ID is missing. So I'm just telling, could you please provide the travel ID? Simple text. And if the travel ID is available, then I'm just putting that value inside my entities somehow like that in my memory field. Pretty cool. Similar way, ES operations, I'm just checking if the ES is complete. Means we have seen somewhere, right? Do you want to track the travel ID 100? There is an ES and no kind of a buttons. So if ES is complete, then also I need to store my enter travel entity travel ID in my memory field. Okay, that's I'm just doing. If it is no, probably nothing required as per this reference. But I am just doing, if edit yes and no, nothing is given, so kind of a by default, do you want to track the travel ID? And I'm just referring my memory field over here to create my conversation, and I'm just giving 2 options, yes and no. So that you can also find in this reference tutorial. Yeah, if yes or no missing, do you want to track the parcel? Similar way, you just click 2 times and it will create a yes or no button. So that pretty much already mentioned over here, and I didn't do anything extra. Pretty cool. So yes, no button is available. And what next? It is actions. So in the actions tab, if no is present, means I'm just selecting out of yes or no option, I'm selecting no, and then it is telling like, hey, no problem, let me know anytime you want to track your travel details. And at the same time, unset memory field no, because no and yes is kind of a flag. So once no is set, I'm just setting unset the memory field no. And what I'm gonna do is, just a moment, we are checking next the yes part. If the user is clicking on yes, then we are basically linking this application. Okay, but currently we have redeployed the application, so no more this URL will find in my cloud platform. So that means that URL I need to just link in a post operations, and in a body part will go, and in the body part we are just telling like, hey, what exactly my post call will happen with the payload. So this I need the travel ID, and in the headers I'm telling like, hey, content type application JSON, and accept this one. By the way, you can see something called authentication part also. I'm telling no authentication here because I'm managing the authentication out of my application. But here also you have a provision to set auth authentication and client ID, client secret, and authorization URL, whatever we did programmatically, that could have been done over here as well. Maybe in some other tutorial I'll try to explore this part and I'll create a content for you. Stay tuned and subscribe my channel to get to know once I publish new content. So let's quickly fork this overall skill now. So this is my track and travel skill. Click on fork, and it will ask which bot. I tell my travel bot. Click on fork. That's it. So now head over to our my travel bot, and I believe this build section should have this track travel automatically added, and all things are created perfect, and I don't need to do much on my own. Pretty simple, correct? And let's go to this part. This will no more work, of course. You think you know now. So this is the new bot, like new URL, sorry, no, new application, Node.js application that we have deployed recently. Head over to our bot, click on this pencil icon and remove this out. And we need to put HTTPS. Cool. Let's save it. And the rest of the information should be fine. By the way, you may need to click on the train button if it doesn't work, and this train sometimes takes little time. So make sure like you give some patience to that, and have your travel bot trained in case it is not able to recognize your intents and expressions. So what next? Let's quickly test this bot. Hopefully it will work successfully. 100. Voila. Do you want to track the travel ID 100? Click on yes, and hopefully I'll be able to see the data. Voila, everything cool. But I told some kind of a, this is called a happy path, and in case it doesn't work, in case it fails to fetch some information, what to be done? Let's make some sort of intentional mistake now and do a debugging quickly. So for that, what I'm planning to do, I just go down. Let's make me do some sort of this line, let's see, drop off. So body parser I'm not using. So what will happen? body parser, if I don't use this travel ID, this body enter body will be coming as an empty. Okay, I'll not be able to find this travel ID, and obviously my application will not work. So click on save, and of course we have to redeploy CAI push. Let's wait for some time. Hopefully it will be able to push into my. So this time, of course, the same URL will be there. Nothing changed, only the underlying code base will be modified, as you can very well anticipate. Pausing the video. Looks like this CAI push worked successfully, and my travel bot again in start its condition. So let's head over to that, our travel bot. Let's reload this once and put 200 and click on yes. No reply. We know like what we did the mistake, but we know, that's why we are sure how to fix it, but I don't know what exactly the missing link, then how to debug now our application. That is the things that we should do. For that, I am not going to tell you about step by step in this tutorial, because I have already created dedicated content for that. You can see this in this screen now, the video, and I have also mentioned the video URL in the description box, like how to debug Node JS application remotely as well locally. You can see my application is now running in cloud. So how to debug this application from my VS Code or maybe by Chrome developer tool. So that a dedicated video I have already published a long back. Probably you can just take a look and understand in case you are not aware of how to do it. So now this is our application. Manifest.yml, where we have given this travel pod as the name of our application. Of course, you can recall. So here I told like npm run inspect. So that is the additional command we have entered at the first time. And also in the package.json, I told like this inspect will basically make this Node.js application running in inspect mode, because we are doing a debugging. So we need some sort of a specific add-on to our package.json application, this file rather. And of course, these two things you need to remember. This command to be required the moment this inspect, this command comes or debugging comes, it basically run this application in an inspect mode. Simple. What we have to do next, I just told like you need to refer that video where I just mentioned step-by-step process how to make our application enable for remote debugging. And I have already done a port forwarding with a 9229 port, and I have already a debugger file created. Everything steps I mentioned there, so nothing to worry about in case you are not aware of. Definitely you can follow that tutorial, and you can definitely do a easy way the debugging. It should be a piece of cake for you going forward. So now what I have to do is I just need to do this kind of SSH. This is my cloud port, and this is my local port I'm forwarding to, and this is my application name. So if I just call that out, it's in listening mode. And now I'm just opening my debugger. So let's close that everything. This is my launch configuration. I have done all this setup there. I already discussed how to do it in my previous tutorial, or maybe that debugging tutorial. I just run this one, start debugging. What will happen? It will basically, so now this is in debugging mode. This tunnel is basically working. Tunnel means we have to create a secure tunnel so that from local environment we can debug our application running on cloud. That's pretty cool. So let's put a breakpoint, and if you just click on this line, you can see this debugger doesn't have any coding. It's see only launch.json, right? But there is certain things the debug console. If I click on that, you will see that entire code piece is now working, loaded into my debug console, where you see that my body parser is commented. So this is a different window, different application you can see, and it doesn't need to do anything with our original application, which is over here. Okay, my travel bot, pretty cool. So now we will do what? We'll put a breakpoint, and I'm expecting my request body will be empty. Travel bot, let's read on this once and put 100. and I click on yes. Voila, you see that debugger got triggered. And if you go to the request, you see there is a body and body comes as empty. And of course, it is not able to find any travel ID. Travel ID is undefined. And so you can pretty well anticipate this URL call. This URL does have undefined travel ID mapped, and of course cannot convert undefined a null object, and this one is no reply. So we know how to fix it. So let's quickly fix that first. Go to our node index.js, and we need to uncomment this one, save it, and we have to do push back to cloud. Let's pause the video. Meantime, it will be finished. Yeah, looks like this application is still up and running again. And let's open the tunnel, okay, once more, and do a debugging also. Let's run this and wait for this pop-up. Yeah, this tunnel is active. Let's head over, restart this application once more just to be sure. 25, it's or maybe 20, some travel ID I want to check this time. Click on yes, and it will again hit back to our Node.js application, and this time you see the travel ID comes 20. Cool. And of course, if I just go back to my bot, I can see the data. Pretty cool. Our, in this episode, we have created the bot, we have integrated our Node.js application, deployed the Node.js application to cloud. Also, you have seen a little bit of debugging, and I also mentioned the resources that you can check for to understand the debugging steps more better way. And in subsequent video, let me try now to integrate this chatbot with our very silly and stupid UI5 application for the travel and booking, the freestyle UI5 application that we have built already. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned and stick around to my channel and to get to know this kind of videos in future as well. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll connect again with the next step. Goodbye.